Hello, everybody. My name is Anish. I'm a business listener here at Odoo, and today we'll be going over how Odoo can help your manufacturing business out of the box and how to get the most out of our software out of the box. Before going any further on a presentation today, just want to first recap who I am, what my background is, and why I'm here. So basically, I'm a business listener here at Odoo. So what I do is I meet with businesses interested in learning more about Odoo, and I learn about their challenges, what they're facing, and potentially help identify the right solution for that need. If that's within Odoo, if that's within Odoo's scope, I provide tailored demos to demonstrate the capability of our software, and across those calls, discuss best practices on the business as well as how it intersects with Odoo's ERP. If the business ends up going with our software, I'm also their account manager and help them implement the software and get up and running to get the maximum chance of success. If you're interested in learning more, I have my email here, anmo@odoo.com, and you can also use this calendar link below to schedule a meeting with me directly. I have worked with various manufacturing businesses in the past, successfully onboarded some businesses to our software for manufacturing and worked with them on the daily, which makes me a good candidate to speak with about the challenges manufacturing businesses face and how an ERP like Odoo can potentially help them. So for today's agenda for the call, I'll be going over how Odoo can help your manufacturing business. That'll be the first part of the call. We'll be going over 3 top-line benefits on how it can impact the bottom line, and also recap what out-of-the-box means. After that, I'll be going over the basics of Odoo, specifically how products are set up in Odoo, and various other types of information structures that kind of govern how the software works. That'll be for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then from there, we'll go into the workflow. It'll start with simply the sales department taking in an order for a manufactured product that requires serial number tracking. We'll go ahead and prepare the components to show how that process works, including purchasing, receiving, as well as performing child manufacturing orders, sub-assembly products, as part of the top-level product that is being sold. From there, we'll plan and complete the master manufacturing order that we're selling to the customer. And we'll go into work planning by work center, and provide real lead times to our customer. And then finally, once the order is complete, we'll review the unit costs of our operation and go into reporting and metrics. So I'll translate this in terms of benefits, but that's essentially the agenda of the call today. Before going further, we'd like to address the audience who's attending. Thanks a lot for attending. I can see that 21 people are watching, and all 20 of you guys, I appreciate 21 of you guys. I appreciate you guys' time, and feel free to ask any comments as we go, including, "Hey, Anish, I totally don't understand this. Please restart," and I can go ahead and see, as long as we have time, reiterate certain concepts. This webinar is really dedicated towards more advanced manufacturing businesses as opposed to simple manufacturing. So I will be going towards the deep end immediately in this demonstration, with very little customization and configuration and basics in the beginning. But if you have any questions, feel free to use that meeting link or email to ask any questions, as well as try yourself and give it a try. So before going further, I'm going to go and touch upon what does out of the box mean. So what I mean by that, what getting the most out of Odoo software out of the box means, is getting the most value for your business out of our software without development. So that means no development, right out of the box, using our software, how to get value out of that. And what the benefit of out of the box means, what does that mean in terms of benefits? It means no development costs. It means faster uptime. We don't have to wait for development. We can go right away into training our staff and implementing Odoo. And it also means a more affordable solution. We don't have to pay for development. We don't have to pay for code maintenance across version changes. And overall, the software, the way it's built, is matching the value that you're looking for. So at Odoo, we always try to keep things as standard as possible, and that's what we focus on today, is Odoo standard. How can we get the most out of that, and how that's very exciting for many manufacturing businesses, how that can provide very top-line value for your business. So now I'll be going over those benefits. How can Odoo help my manufacturing business? I'm very passionate about this topic. Like I said, I've worked with many businesses in the past, and I think number one that a lot of manufacturing businesses are looking for, and that Odoo can help with, is increasing the traceability and accountability throughout their operation. That includes seeing who is quoting a customer all the way to delivering that to the customer, and everything in between. So having knowledge about who operated on which manufacturing process. How long did that take? Which serial number product did we deliver to which customer? And so on and so forth. And having that easily in a real-time automated way, end-to-end have that data. And what does that mean in terms of dollars and cents? It means better customer service. We have the ability when a customer comes in and says, hey, we have a defect on this product, we're able to immediately pull up the sales order, pull up the corresponding manufacturing process, and see if there are any defects we detected there, and at least be able to service them, know when we sold it to the customer, and be able to provide the corrective action within seconds rather than hours or even days. This can lead to higher customer retention in the future, as well as less time spent on staff for customer service. Number two, what are we looking for? I hear this over and over again. How can I optimize stock levels? How can I make sure to have an accurate inventory count so that my customers don't get turned away? I'm sure that there's a statistic out there for how many customers have been, for a set manufacturing business, how many customer orders may have been turned around because they didn't have the stock on hand, and therefore the lead time was unacceptable. Now, as a business, we want to make sure to maximize the conversion, and this issue of how much stock to keep on hand is a perpetual problem. If we have more stock on hand, it means a shorter lead time, but also means we're paying more upfront, and that stock may even be wasted. Conversely, if you go to lean, we may have too unacceptably long lead times and leave money on the table. So Odoo can help with that process, and I'll go over that process in the future. Number three, getting real-time accurate metrics on production. How can this benefit me? In many ways, this can benefit, including, and I think the primary way is pricing strategies and business decision making. We're able to see what our unit costs are on average over time, detect trends, and even diagnose persistent problems to help reduce the cost of our operation. And Odoo can provide those real-time and accurate metrics with minimal data entry and make that very automated. So that's kind of one of the other top three benefits that we're looking for in ERP, and specifically Odoo is able to offer that without development. And I saw a question here from David. Will you show maintenance of the master production schedule and running that into MRP for a build-to-stock company? Unfortunately, for today's demo, it will be a made-to-order product with a hierarchical bill of materials. We won't be able to touch upon master production schedule in this demo, but I'll be able to show how reordering rules work to keep a minimum stock level, and be able to show how inventory updates in real time accurately with a complex manufacturing process. So I'll be touching upon that, and if you feel free to send me an email, I can provide more information on master production schedule in the future. So for the purpose of the demo, for the upcoming process, I'm going to be going into the shoes of a manufacturing business. So my company is JPE Manufacturing, and what we produce is specialty industrial lights. We make these industrial lights made to order, but we keep some of the components on hand, namely the base metals that we use to manufacture the lights. Some of the challenges that we're running into includes, number one, we're not able to track which exact unit was sold to which customer. This is a big challenge because, like I mentioned with traceability, we have some customers who come in and have some issues. Either they didn't receive the product, or the product has a defect, and we want to be able to service that customer effectively and be able to sell it and see exactly what happened, what they paid for, when it was delivered, when it was manufactured, but also, and that increases customer satisfaction. But also, we want to be able to predict if a specific vendor has repeatedly caused defects for our end customer, we can then take corrective action on the vendor side or on the operator side. If we can find our operators having trouble with certain operation, we can diagnose that as well. So having that traceability is some challenge that we don't have with our current system. We also struggle to know how much product to buy ahead of time. We're currently keeping a lot on hand, but we end up having a lot of unused product in our warehouse, which is costing us warehouse space and also money up front. With time value of money, we're losing money for that purchase. So we want to get more accurate metrics on how much to buy ahead of time, and also see trends on what we purchased in the past, and that way we can potentially make better decisions on this process. Finally, we don't have accurate numbers on what our final unit costs are. We have a rough idea it costs X amount per unit, but we're not sure month to month what's happening, and we're not aware of any trends. And so we're a little bit wary of doing bulk discounts to customers because we want to make sure our gross profit is over 60% at all times. So we want to get more accurate numbers, but we also don't want to spend a lot of time entering data in, and we want it to be easy. We don't want it to be difficult, especially our operators. It should be simple for them to understand so that they can get in and get out as quickly as possible. So 1 to 3 are our challenges, namely tracking which unit was sold to which customer, knowing how much product to buy ahead of time for our raw components, and then having accurate numbers on our final unit costs. And I'll be going over the workflow we'll be demonstrating today and how that can potentially address those 3 challenges we have discussed. So I'll be starting with creating a customer quote for that made-to-order manufactured product. We'll be tracking that product by serial number when we manufacture it, but we're starting with creating a customer quote for this product. We're going to create the customer quote within Odoo. Since everything is a single system, and that's one of the benefits of Odoo, we'll be able to auto-check inventory within the quote. So we'll see what we have in stock, and that way your sales department doesn't have to walk over to the purchasing and receiving side. They don't have to call anyone. They'll know with a pretty good accuracy what they have already. Number 3, we're going to go ahead and trigger a manufacturing order made to order for the sales order once it's confirmed. If we have stock in-house already, it'll go ahead and just reserve that stock within a warehouse, but for our demonstration, we're going to trigger an order upon sales. And we're going to go ahead and prepare the components for the manufacturing order. That includes going into the purchase app and confirming the purchase order for the right vendor at the right price, and then receiving those components in our inventory. Once you receive all the components, as well as manufacture the subassembly products, which you didn't touch upon, and number 4 will also be manufacturing the subassembly product, our manufacturing order will be then ready to complete. So we're going to go ahead and plan that on the work center and see what our lead time will be to the customer more accurately. And we're going to then go ahead and complete the order. We're going to have flexible consumption. We may scrap products, and ultimately at the end, manufacture the product for the customer. And then finally at the end, after we complete the manufacturing order, get the metrics, we're going to go ahead and review the costs to get metrics on what the unit costs are, as well as what is our average unit cost for that unit. So we're going to be able to, with number 7, address unit costs, and with reordering rules, we're going to address that through the inventory management. And going back to the number 1, traceability, throughout the process, we're going to be tracking by serial number and having the data centralized. So we'll see that throughout the workflow. Okay, so I can now kind of jump into the workflow. Looks like we have no more questions for now. So what I'll do is for now, I'll start with the basics. We're going to start with what is a product in Odoo, how we set that up in a very basic level, and then go over bill of materials, what the components we're using for this manufacturing order, what are the work orders and work time. And then we're also going to set up work center. So we're going to see the cost per hour, and how we set that, how we set up the schedules for the work center, and then and how that affects the scheduling. So I'm going to jump into the database right here. So this is the Odoo's home. Odoo is essentially a one app, one need product. So we have one app for sales where your salespeople will log in and create quotes, confirm sales orders. The inventory app, for example, is where your inventory lies, where you're able to see all your products and their stock levels. So we'll go ahead and go into a product and show some of the basics there. So the product we're selling is the Industrial Light 12-inch. This is our final product that can be sold, and I click here. I can see on the inventory tab some of the important configurations. So we set the inventory route that we procure this item for the customer to be replenished in order and manufacture. So that means once you place the sales order, it's going to create a manufacturing order just for those quantities ordered. For traceability, we're going to track each unit by unique serial number. And for our bill of materials, I'll touch upon that in a second. One other quick point to mention is we're able to set up reordering rules, which is part of number 2, how do we keep an accurate stock in our warehouse. We can set up reordering rules if you'd like. Instead of doing made to order, we can set up minimum stock levels here. We can set up a route for this minimum stock level to be maintained and set up a minimum quantity here. For example, if we want to keep a minimum quantity of 10 units on hand and a maximum of 30, we can set this up here, and Odoo will constantly look at the forecasted available units to sell and make sure that it's going to order up to the maximum quantity if we go below the minimum. So if we go, for example, to 9 units in our warehouse, it's going to draft a manufacturing order for 21 units to go up to 30. So that's reordering rules. For our demonstration, we won't have those set up because we're doing made to order in this sense. So, but for our raw components, we have that rule set up. Now we'll be going into bill of materials. So just to recap, we went over serial tracking and reordering rules in our presentation. Now we'll be going over bill of materials. I'll be going here to the bill of materials. And this essentially will be our recipe for the components that we're going to be using to manufacture. So we have two components for the top level product. One is glass tubing, 12-inch, and one is our light casing, which is our sub-assembly product. The operations which we give to our technicians to assemble this product lie here in the operations tab. And we have one operation here set up. If I open this guy up, we can set up durations for these work orders that can then be used for planning. So we set up this step to be 45 minutes, but we can also have this duration compute based on actual track time. Our instructions are set up here. So we have a Google slide here, which can be updated in Google outside of Odoo. And we can also use PDF or text, and we can also set up quality control steps. So I haven't set this up for this demo, but we can set up on each kind of operation a quality control step. For example, measuring the length of an item, taking a picture, filling out a worksheet that requires signature. That can all be set up in Odoo out of the box. So that covers the basics of bill of materials. Before going any further, just to reiterate, we have a sub-assembly product. So if I come here to light casing, this product itself on the inventory tab, you can see is also replenished and ordered and manufactured. So this associated light casing has its own bill of materials. If you open this up, we can see that it has one component iron with one operation of doing the mold for 60 minutes on the work center oven, which is a different work center. So this is a hierarchical bill of materials for our final product. And if I click here to the bill of materials, excuse me, we can look at an index structure and cost. So I can come here, I can see on light casing, I can see the raw components of the light casing and the raw operations of the light casing. So I can see here we have a sub-assembly operation and it's indexed to create a total end bill of material cost at $179. So that's an index structure and cost. This is the theoretical cost, and then conversely at the end of the demonstration we'll be able to show how we can get an actual average cost that can be used for your pricing strategy compared to the theoretical cost. And I saw a question for does reorder rules consider lead time? And at the moment, yes. So reordering rules using a master production schedule, you can forecast based on the lead time what you need to purchase now, for example, or what you need to manufacture now to keep a certain minimum stock level in the future. I won't be able to demonstrate in today's demo, but please reach out and I can either do a demonstration and provide a recorded video on that feature. So we went over, so I'll go ahead and jump into the last basics, which is Work Center. To recap, we went over bill of materials, components and work orders, and finally for Work Center. Very quickly, I just touched upon in the manufacturing app. These are all our work centers for our operation. And essentially, work orders for each unit will be assigned on assembly stations or ovens, meaning the work centers. And the main configurations to mention here is we can set up the working hours of work center for scheduling. So we set up here a schedule based on Pacific time for 8 to 12 and 1 to 5. And this will be used based on the total work time needed to calculate how long it will take to manufacture your product. We also set up cost per hour. So you have a cost here of $50 an hour. And over the time, we're able to get metrics on overall equipment efficiency and other types of performance metrics. So that's the basics. That's an overview of the basics. To take a step back, I know that was a lot of information. What we went over is what is a product in Odoo, how we can set up serial tracking and reordering rules, how we set up bill of materials, and then finally work centers. Now that we have this basics in mind, I'll go and jump into the workflow, and it'll start with the next step. So here, we'll be now going over to the sales step of the workflow. So to start, we'll be quoting a customer for this manufactured product, industrial light. We're going to check the inventory in real time and showing how the integration works in Odoo in real time. We're going to show how we then send that via email and confirm that sales order if the customer is interested. And then showing that the related manufacturing order that's generated automatically. So we have the made to order manufacturing order, and we'll then prepare the components. So we're going to see what components we have in store already, and place POs or create child MOs as needed to produce the final product. If there's no other questions, I'm going to jump in. So I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to put a hat on for a salesperson and jump into the sales app, and I'll create a quote. So I'm going to jump in here. Let's say we have a quote for an existing customer, lighting customer. I call it a lighting customer generic name. You can create customers on the fly within the sales app and it'll populate back into the system for future use. And I'll add the product. So we're going to go ahead and sell the industrial light 12-inch. We're going to make it 2 units to show how we can manufacture multiple units with zero tracking. And right away, I can see in here this button that connects to inventory. So this product is replenished on demand. So we're therefore good to sell it. It even gives us an expected delivery date that we set based on expected lead times that we're expecting to deliver this to the customer on 3-2031, which is at the end of the month. Now I can save this quote and collect online payment on it. So I can send this by email to the customer. And then now all associated communications. If you take a pause, we have this on the right-hand side of the chatter, and all associated communications are here. So we can see the emails I've sent as a user, Anish sent this, and replies by the vendor or customer will populate here as well. So if they, for example, reply and say they're good to go, we can then go ahead and confirm it. They can also come into customer preview and sign online, and so on and so forth. So we can that process I can cover in a different demo, but we have a lot of ability to process quotes and a lot of discount capabilities, a lot of price lists, specific to vendors, specific to products, and specific to times. So it's a very powerful sales software. For now, I'll go ahead and say that they like this product as is and confirm it. So I'll go ahead and confirm this order. And right away, we can see that we have a manufacturing order linked to the sales order. So right away, we have a manufacturing order that is linked to the sales order. We can click on one screen to access it and see that it's for these 2 units to produce for the sales order. The bill of materials is being pulled, and then associated components to the top of a product are being connected. And right away, we can see that the glass tubing component is not available. In the forecasted stock, we have to procure more for this manufacturing order. Conversely, the light casing, since it's replenished on demand, is actually going to be good to go, but it's going to create a manufacturing order for this child product. If everything looks good to go, we'll start preparing the components for this process. And just to reiterate, at the end, we'll also deliver the product. So here we have a delivery note here linked to the sales order as well, which will allow us to deliver these 2 units of industrial light. And we can then refer to the customer back on this as well, say, hey, we delivered to you at this date. So right away, we're getting that linking, that traceability throughout the process. We're connecting all the departments in a very easy flow. And I'll now jump into the preparation of the components. Just to recap, we've covered quoting customer and confirming the sales order, and now we're going into preparing components for the manufacturing order. So I'm going to jump in to the manufacturing order. I'm going to see that we have the glass tubing, which we purchased. We don't assemble. It's not available because we have not actually placed a PO for it. However, I've set up reordering rules so that we can then procure more. So I'm going to go into the purchase app, and I can see that automatically this is generated PO5. Connected to manufacturing order 13. I can open this up and see the 2 units that we want for a customer. Right away, it's placed a draft purchase order, not confirmed, but drafted for the components we need. I can then go ahead and confirm it and receive it. I'll take a pause. We have some questions. Yes, I think we have a lot of questions on lead time, so I'll try my best to address that at the end. And noting the quality check capture on the screen. Yes, the quality check will populate on the tablet when the technician's operating on a work order. So they can see it, they can log signatures on it, and you'll have that records for later. You can see the associated quality checks on the traceability report. So great question, and that will be the answer for that. I'm going to go jump back into the purchase order. We have the associated components, and I'm going to go ahead and confirm this. So I'm going to confirm this PO to receive the components we need for the manufacturing order. And I can go ahead and receive this. So we can either receive the products once they come into our warehouse separately in the inventory app or directly on the purchase app. For sake of simplicity, I'm just going to stay within the purchase app screen and look at the associated receipt and receive it on the PO itself. So I can see the 2 units that are placed at the right vendor, and I can go ahead and validate that I received these quantities in our warehouse, and our inventory report will update accordingly. So right away, if I go to the inventory report, which I can access here, I can see here the glass tubing is right here for 2 on-hand quantity. However, it's not available because right away Odoo has reserved it for the manufacturing order. So we can't sell this glass tubing or use it for a different manufacturing order, but we can see in the inventory report that we have it on hand. Now, if I go to the back to the manufacturing order, I'll go from the sales logic. We now have the 2 units updated on the manufacturer that we have these ready, the glass tubing, and now all we need is the light casing. So what's great about the light casing is we have to create a child MO for it, and that's also linked right here on the manufacturing order. So I click here, and I can see we have these products to manufacture. So we have to create 2 units of light casing with this iron quantity required, and we can go ahead and process and produce this product. Now I'll go ahead and just mark this done without processing it as a technician for sake of time, and I'll go ahead and explain this feature in the actual manufacturing order. So for now, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and mark this as done for this subassembly product. Therefore, I skipped the steps of the technician just because we want to do it for the final manufacturing order, but what we've done is created that subassembly product. So I can always go into cost analysis and do the full process, but for sake of time, I'm just going to do it once at the final. So I went ahead and produced the components. And if you look here, we now have the light casing available as well as the glass tubing. Now keep in mind, we can also keep subassembly products on reordering rules. So maybe we can keep a certain amount of light casing in our warehouse so we don't have to manufacture on demand. For now, I've kept it MTO for both. But we essentially now have all the components ready to go, and we're now ready to manufacture the final product. I know there's a lot of information, so I'm going to take a pause here and recap. This is the end of the part number 3 of our workflow. Placing sales order and preparing components. So we went ahead and quoted the customer, checked inventory in real time. We then confirmed the sales order and triggered the manufacturing order. And we essentially prepared the components for the top level manufacturing order. So we confirmed the PO, received it in warehouse. We also completed the child manufacturing order and had that also reserved for the manufacturing order. So we're good to go here. We now are ready to complete the actual top level product now and deliver that to the customer. So I'll go ahead and go to this slide, which is now summarizes that process. So for this part, we're now going to plan this manufacturing order 13. We'll be able to see the work order duration expected and planned by work center. We'll then complete the work orders at the work center. We'll show what the technician will see, and this would also apply for the child manufacturing order, which I skipped. We'll get to see the actual work time being calculated and then scrap products if required. And finally, at the end, once the work order is completed, we'll close the MO and deliver it to the customer. So I'm now back into the manufacturing order, and now I'll go ahead and plan it. So because we track by serial number, Odoo will actually require a sub-manufacturing order for each unit. So I'll press mass produce. It'll generate the serial numbers automatically for each 2 of the products that we have to track. And I'll click apply. So right away, we now have 2 linked manufacturing orders, one for each unit of industrial light, which is our end product to the customer. We have manufacturing order 1 and manufacturing order 2. They both reserve the appropriate amount of glass tubing. So this is for 1 unit of glass tubing, this is for 1 unit of casing. And the work order is for 45 minutes. We haven't scheduled it yet, but we're going to schedule it on the assembly station 1 per the bill of materials. If I click, I can see here both units 1 and 2, which represent the 2 serialized products that we're going to be processing individually, as we're keeping track of each unit individually. Now that we got that sorted, we generated the manufacturing orders linked. I can then click and plan. So I'll click here and plan for both. And now right away, we've planned the orders. So I can go, for example, into manufacturing order 1. And I can see, okay, this work order is scheduled for 3-3, which is today, starting at 3:14, excuse me. So it's went ahead and planned for that time. And that can tell me that I can basically call the customer and say, okay, your lead time is now actually going to be quicker than expected. We've planned your order today. I can go to the next one, and I can see that this one's actually planned for literally now. So this is planned for 3-3, 2:30. So it's going ahead and you looked at the availability of the work center and planned it. Now, if I go to the manufacturing app, I can go into planning by work center, and I can see this. I can go to the week, and right away I can see Tuesday we have one for 1301 planned and one for 1302, and they're essentially back to back. If I go to the day, I can see they're back to back, one at 2 and one at 3. If we have more orders, obviously this may push the timeline. So if we have a lot of orders, it may push us to the next week or the next month, and it keeps track of your schedule. So it won't schedule work to be completed on the weekend, for example, or on off-hour times. It's going to schedule it for when it's available and block it for that whole entire period. And you can then essentially look at the end of the last work order to see, okay, how long will it take for us to manufacture all our units. This is very useful for us because we have a lot of customers calling in and either frustrated because they haven't received their order yet, or they're not sure when they'll receive it and they want more information on lead times. And we're not able to quickly plan this. This within one click. We're able to plan our orders, and they're actually all part of the central source of truth, which is all our manufacturing orders. So to recap, that's how we'll plan by work center. And I'll now go into completing the actual manufacturing order. So if I go back to the slide, we covered plan MO, and we're now going to actually complete the manufacturing order and show what technicians would see. So technicians will essentially can see by work center the task that they have to launch. They can, for example, if we have a tablet logged in for Assembly Station 1, they'll go ahead and see this screen here. So they'll see the pertinent work orders for the day, and they can log in and then process them. So I'll go ahead and open one right now. We can see the associated serial number for that specific work order 11, and they can see the work instructions here as well as any quality control steps that are required. Since I've opened it, Odoo's already calculating the actual work time that I'm working on, so it's already feeding this into the manufacturing order. And if, for example, I have to scrap a product, I can open this button here and scrap a product. So it'll pull the associated products, and for example, if I have to scrap something, I can do it right here, and that'll affect our costing analysis at the end of the production run. I can also block a work center and then require it to schedule it at a different one. If there's, for example, an issue with a work center, I can block a work center as well, or generate a quality alert for my quality control team to manage. If everything looks good and I follow the instructions and pass the work steps, I can essentially mark this work order as done and log into the next unit. The same process applies. We'll go ahead and process this unit, the same logic, and mark this one done as well. And that's kind of how we were able to process the work orders, and we completed the manufacturing order. If I log back in, I can see both these are now ready to close. Excuse me. Take a pause for water. So now we can see that both are now ready to close. We completed the work orders, and I can simply mark all of them, and action, mark as done. Or I can go one by one, click here like this, and mark them done one as long as there's no issues. So I can see here, for example, the real duration is 50 seconds. I can override the time if, for example, the technician says, hey, I forgot to press the start button at the correct time. You can manually override an estimate. For example, let's say this was actually more like 40 minutes. I can override that time and then complete it. Same logic applies to the other one. I'll go ahead and log in to this one. And this one was really quick. I'm going to go ahead and edit the time and say this was more like 50 minutes. If your operators are working in real time, this can be very accurate metric. We are not able to obviously wait the full 45 minutes, so I'm having to override it and mark both as done. So right away, we've essentially completed the manufacturing order. We will show the capability to register scraps for cost analysis. And we're able to get real work time on our manufacturing order and provide instructions, quality control to help reduce errors as well when processing these orders. And I'll go back to the slides to recap. In this demonstration, we were able to plan the MO, complete the work orders at the work center, and then close the MO and show the benefits of it, mainly being able to plan and provide real lead times to your customer at the planning stage. We're able to complete the work orders at the work center and scrap products, block work centers, adjust the consumption as needed, and then give the real work time to the operator to see. And we're finally then able to close the MO, edit any consumptions or times if required, and then close it, and then generate the product. If we want to see, we can actually go to the inventory report and show these products as well. So I can go here to the inventory report. I can see for industrial light, we now have 3 units, and 2 of their lot number 11 and 12. Excuse me, serial number 11 and 12. And we can see it's on hand but not available because it's already reserved for the delivery to the customer. So that's a recap of this process. We'll now go into analysis. So the next slide we'll be going over is reviewing unit cost and reporting. Very important for manufacturing business. This is one of the larger points and benefits of an ERP is, at scale, you'll need a system to get this information. We can't rely on pen and paper or an Excel sheet that's very clunky and difficult to use. So for this analysis, what I'll be doing is going over the actual costing of a manufacturing order. So we'll review what we just did. I'll then go over production analysis, show the average unit cost of the product, the average work order duration, and then we'll go over a traceability report to show how we can service customers that are having defects or inquiries and be able to easily resolve that within seconds. I'll then go over some other metrics and mention other capabilities. So I'll just jump into that right now. So if we go to the manufacturing orders we just completed, if you want to go to a specific production run, we can go in here, find all the data. And for example, for 13.1 and 2, we can see that these two are done. I can click on one of them. And I can go to cost analysis. So I'll go here. And I can see the very detailed of what essentially happened. So I can see here, I use up these costs and components. And these costs can actually not only be a fixed cost. They can be based on the actual purchase order of the item. So if there can be an average costing that's updates in real time here, first in, first out, etc. It goes and tells me this component costs $50.50, and then based on the time of 40 minutes, which is 2/3 of an hour, the cost for operation is $33. And in total, this was the total cost per unit for this unit. If you go to the other one, similar logic. If I go here to cost analysis, this was slightly more expensive because you put 50 minutes here. So in total, our operation cost is a little bit higher, leading to a higher cost per unit. Now, what does this mean for you? It means you're able to diagnose if you find a manufacturing run took longer than expected or had a higher cost, you can find that here and potentially find the operator and the operations responsible. So we can see this just one operator here, Anish, which was me, had this work time, which was higher than usual. And if there's quality control alerts, we can actually map that to this operation as well. So that's an overview of specific production runs. And now for reporting reasons, we may want to see a rolling average of what our products cost. So we can go into reporting and actually get that information as well. So I'll go into reporting, go into production analysis, and all our products that are manufactured, I can get this data right here. So in real time, it's calculating this and showing me, for example, for the industrial light, 12-inch with SKU number 1001, our average cost per unit was $71, with a component cost of $52.50 and average operation cost of $18.56. This essentially is updating in real time for all your production runs for the associated product, and you're getting this metric. We can also go in more detail if we'd like to see every single manufacturing order and the associated components, associated operations, and associated operators. So we get very granular detail without having to enter this in Excel, manage multiple dashboards, and having potential for error there, as well as manual data entry. This is updating real time based on the inputs that we just described. So bringing that, we can also see trends on the graph. So we can see here the trends from February to March for our component costs, any other types of metrics or cost per unit. We can see it's increased since Feb and March. And we're able to see that trend, which can help us make better business decisions in the future. Now, that goes over that. If we recap, we went over the first two, production analysis and actual costing. And now touch upon, before we have only a few more minutes left before Q&A, just going over the traceability report, which was kind of one of our problems is customers come in, we have to figure out which serial number product was assigned to which, etc. So there's various ways to do this, but essentially, if a customer comes in and inquires about a specific serial number, we can come here to the manufacturing orders, and we can filter by lot number. So I can come here, filter by serial number or lot number. And for example, if they have an inquiry on they say, hey, my unit number 12 had issues. I can come in here, apply, find the associated manufacturing order, click it, and then see all the components of work orders associated, and then find the associated sales order for the customer. I can click here and then go to the history of the customer, see what I sold to them and when. I can find the associated delivery order. For example, I can see I actually didn't deliver this to the customer and diagnose issue there. And then we have the traceability report, which was what we discussed first. So I can see here indexed the components used for this production run. And if we tracked the components by lot number, I could see the lot numbers of the components and the associated vendors for those components, and therefore diagnose perhaps there's an issue on the vendor side or there's an issue on the operational side. And if there are any notes made by the operator on the manufacturing order, that can be seen here. So all the associated processes, including child manufacturing order, any associated moves, costing, and sales, is all linked on one record. And that's kind of the advantage of a central system. And that speed is what will benefit you in terms of customer service or resolving any issues more quickly with one central system. So that's the main points I'd like to go over in this demo, is that workflow end to end. We also have other types of reporting if you guys are interested: overall equipment effectiveness, trends in purchasing and manufacturing, duration trends. That can all be, so virtually any type of data can be queried and reported on within Odoo very easily, as well as exported to Excel for other types of analysis. To recap, we covered these metrics here: actual costing, average unit costing of products in real time, traceability reports, and customer service for any inquiries very easily, and the centralization of data. And finally, to recap, that's kind of the last part of our workflow. So thanks a lot for you guys' time. To recap, these were the main things we covered. How we started with the overall top-line benefits of Odoo. We went into the basics, then we went to the workflow, a three-part workflow on placing a sales order, preparing the components of the top-level product, then planning the work centers so that we can provide a lead time to the customer more accurately, and then completing the manufacturing order, and then finally, reviewing the unit costs and metrics for better business decision making. If I also map this to my problems as GP manufacturing, originally we were not able to track which exact unit was sold to which customer, and I was able to resolve that through our manufacturing app in serial tracking, so we can see all data is linked on the manufacturing order, including by serial number. And the end-to-end process is managed in one system, so I don't have issues with data being incorrect between one or the other, and limiting the issues that can potentially arise with multiple systems. I was then able to also resolve the don't know how much product to buy ahead of time, because I was able to get a more accurate and real-time inventory count. And with reordering rules / reporting, I can adjust my demand, including with a master production schedule, to kind of be in the best position to manage this problem. Finally, we also didn't originally have accurate numbers on what our unit costs are, and we're able to see with an ERP a cost analysis by manufacturing order or overall, and also see trends, so that I can potentially address any trends in costing to help minimize our costs and optimize our costs essentially. So that's an overview, guys. I'm gonna now open up for Q&A. That was kind of an overview. I hope that it wasn't too dense. Like I mentioned, this is all out of the box, so we don't need development for these features, and we haven't even scratched the surface in the sense, like a lot of people were mentioning. Mass production something schedule is another feature we offer, and really we have even more powerful inventory procedures as well. So I'm very passionate about this topic and how it can help the bottom line for manufacturing businesses, and I'll now open up for Q&A. Okay, so I'll now open it up. I can see questions here. So I'll just go from the top bottom. So the one question I didn't address earlier was the lead time just based on product or based on components from sub-BOM and products to purchase lead time. So lead time is based on essentially the second part. It is based on the sub-BOM. So if you, for the master production schedule, based on the lead times of the components of the BOM, you can set up lead times. And how detailed it is and how automated that is would require some review on my part, but my email is there. Please email me, and I'll go ahead and dive further into that process to get more information on that. The next question from David: does shop order scheduling use forward scheduling to find a capacity with due date priority? Great question. So Unfortunately, that process would be more manual in the sense that we could filter based on a custom field in Odoo, which is because Odoo is very flexible with a studio application. We can add a special field for our priority and filter manufacturing orders of a certain priority and then schedule those first. So we can do that. However, that would still be a process that we'd set up in Studio, and we cannot like drag and drop the work order scheduling to a very complex way in an automated way. So for example, if we've already scheduled work orders and now we want to reschedule it by priority, that would be something we can definitely do, but that would require development. That wouldn't be an out-of-the-box feature. But there's workarounds we can do, as mentioned, with special fields to schedule the higher priority items first, but we wouldn't necessarily be able to fix retroactively scheduling based on priority. Next question we have, what controls that the mass produce button is available on the MO? Great question. So you have to have on the MO, the products have to be tracked by serial number. So that doesn't actually pop up if it's by lot or no tracking. Excuse me. It has to be for a serial track product for multiple quantities. If you have that, mass produce button will pop up as an option to then generate the serial numbers automatically. The Rowdy Ladybug asks, which modules or apps in addition to manufacturing would I need to do the procedure you demonstrated today? Great question. So the modules we would need, and feel free to send an email if you'd like me to do this in writing, but essentially we'll need the sales application, invoicing, the purchase application for vendor purchases, the manufacturing application, and I would highly recommend the Studio application. We actually didn't demonstrate Studio application, but for most workflows, some customization we need, so you'll need the Studio application. So those are the ones that I recommend. And if you wanted, for example, the quality control steps, which I didn't demonstrate, that would require a separate app, but those are the core ones: sales, purchasing, invoicing, manufacturing. And highly recommended is Studio. And yep, thanks Andrew, appreciate that. Pleasure to work with you, and thanks a lot for the love there. So that's all I have for you guys. I'm waiting for any other questions. And like I said, it was a lot of information. There are definitely some basics I didn't cover. If you were to try your own trial, I would highly recommend it. But some of the setup would still be recommended you email me, and I can do a demonstration on it so that I can make sure that even the basics configurations that you're able to set up that for success. So I'm just brainstorming here. If I'll just be online for any other questions if you guys have any. If not, you can always email me otherwise. I'll just wait a few more minutes for any other questions. If not, we'll go ahead and conclude this demonstration. Unfortunately, I didn't have a bonus presentation prepared for you guys, but I'm very passionate about the product. If you guys have any other questions or want to see something different, for example, more detailed look into lead times and more master production schedule, etc. I got that from one of the commenters. Just please reach out and we can definitely talk about it anytime. Just love this. Okay, one question from Sean. How does this all hit the general ledger? Great question. So it is all integrated effectively based on the accounting rules. So if I jump in here for any particular product, we kind of define the accounting properties. So I come in here for accounting, we can set up a receivables account and expense account so that when you purchase or sell the product, it debits and credits the right accounts. That would be how it goes in and out of Odoo. Within manufacturing, within inventory, we can define how it affects accounting valuations for the general ledger. So for the ledger for accounting valuation, that product is defined by product category. So I come in here, and I can define the costing methods for inventory valuation. So I have standard price, that is kind of a fixed number we assign, but we can also do it by first in, first out, or average costing. And at the end, when you want to post that to your general ledger, it's right now. You can decide if that's manually done or automated. For most businesses, they prefer this inventory valuation process to be manual. So at the end of the month, they'll manually post this entry based on the method here that's generated. So standard FIFO AVCO. So that's kind of how it works. When it goes into manufacturing and how those components, journal entries affect the in that process for manufacturing, I believe we can set up custom procedures for that. So if, for example, you want the inventory valuation to be for components, and then when you manufacture it, it goes to a virtual account, and then when you finally sell it, it goes to a different account. We can also do that within Odoo, but that's oftentimes a very business-specific process. So if you have future questions on accounting and how the granular details of within the manufacturing, how does inventory valuation work, I can definitely be helpful, but it would probably be best to do a separate call for that, as I would also need to do a little more research on that process. But I do know that we have a lot of customers who manage that process for accounting, even within a manufacturing process. David here is asking, is there a statistical forecast module that can be used to feed the MPS? Great question. Unfortunately, not out of the box. We find that everyone does predictive modeling differently. So we've kept it as a manual process now, where you predict the top level demand, and it'll calculate based on the bill of materials and subassembly what you need to do, what the lead times are, but you do have to manually enter in what you predict will demand month to month. And the reason why we set that up is because there's just so many different models out there that Odoo would prefer keeping it manual to start. And if we need something like that integrated into Odoo's ERP, we can essentially integrate that, possibly integrate that via development, or process that separately and put that number into Odoo. But it's not out of the box. Elaine asks, is any chance to get Q counter with a PLC hardware? So I would have to be familiar with, and you're welcome, Rowdy Ladybug. Is any chance to get the Q counter with a PLC hardware? So great question. So I'm actually not familiar with what Q counter is. If you want to comment that, I can maybe give a little more information. But I do know that hardware is generally integrated with Odoo via Internet of Things. So if you want certain data to transfer over, we have our Internet of Things box, which you can connect and connect that to any type of hardware, like a PLC hardware. And if we need to develop a driver to connect that to Odoo, we actually have a department for that. We have a process to create drivers to integrate hardware via Internet of Things to Odoo. So that is something that's definitely possible. It would be a development, though. It would not be out of the box, most likely. Okay, so guys, I really appreciate your time today. It looks like we've addressed most of the questions today. So I'll go ahead and close out the presentation for today. Really appreciate you guys' time. Love this topic, and feel free. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go to the last slide we have, which is our thank you slide. So feel free to follow us on social media. If a lot of this went over your head, we'll be posting this video via YouTube, and we can always go back to it. And like I said, you can feel free to email me in the previous slide, or set up a meeting, and I'm happy to provide more information. And this will be our social media links, so we can always go here, and we'll post the video on YouTube, as well as you can see other content that might be relevant for your workflow. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you very much.